You're listening to the Law of Attraction Radio Network.
The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life, drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Well, welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California, and I'm so thrilled you could be with me. We've got a great show for you tonight. It's all about shifting timelines, and it's about a book written by Cindy Johnston about her intuitive wisdom on what it takes to really use the law of attraction. There's a whole new spin on it, and it is fascinating. You're going to love this. You know, there may be reasons why it is not working for you, or you're putting out your intentions, but it just doesn't work. Well, I think Cindy may have some answers for you, and so you're really going to get a lot out of this. Her book, Shifting Timelines, Co-Create an Extraordinary Life, is now on sale in Amazon and on her website. You're going to find this so fascinating. So before we bring out Cindy, I just want to mention that I hope that you are going to meet me in Las Vegas on May 16th and 17th. Remember, Michael Lozier is doing a workshop there in Las Vegas that tells you how to make money using the law of attraction. Well, actually, by being a teacher of the law of attraction. He's got a turnkey approach that will make you money immediately. And if you really pay attention, you're going to find that the money is going to flow in by doing something that you really love. And that is teaching the law of attraction. So I hope that you'll join me. Remember, May 17th, May 16th and 17th in Las Vegas. And you can find out more by going to michaeljlozier.com and check on the facilitator workshop in Las Vegas. You're going to love, love, love it. I can promise you that. So with that, let's take a fast commercial break with this important message about the Law of Attraction magazine. And if you're watching this on video, you can see the magazine in motion. It's so much fun. Next month on May 1st, Lynn McTaggart is on the cover, and she is being featured about her book, The Power of Eight. There is something incredibly special about what she is saying. Scientific documentation about the power of 8 people. It's just not about 15,000 people coming together. You can make a huge difference with just 8 people. But there is a secret to that. And it's something that I resonate so much with. So you're going to love this article. Remember, May 1st, 2018 is Lynn McTaggart. And you can get there by going to lawofattractionmagazine.net, N-E-T. So with that, let's stay tuned for the commercial, and we'll be right back with Cindy Johnston.
It's here, it's hot, and it's a must read. It's the science behind the Law of Attraction magazine. Every issue brings you great articles and in-depth how-tos from all your favorite Law of Attraction experts, authors, scientists, and medical professionals. Go to lawofattractionmagazine.net. That's lawofattractionmagazine.net.
Well, welcome, Cindy Johnston, to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I am so thrilled to be talking about this subject matter.
Oh, thank you, Jules. It's great to be on the show.
Let's talk about shifting timelines. Well, first, what I want to do is actually talk about you a bit because you're an intuitive. You've got this incredible wisdom. I want to have you give us a little bit of your history. Were you born with this? Did you develop it? What was your interest? Just tell us about yourself.
Thank you. I was intuitive all my life, like my childhood. I knew things and experienced things that the rest of the world might not have realized, or I understood or they understood. But the big change happened in 99 when my mom passed away. And I had a complete dream of how she would pass, and it all played out exactly as the dream showed me. And it was so bizarre and so strange, and I had to start studying. And that's when I stepped into the metaphysical world and basically consumed books, and then started studying with a medium and intuitive in 2000, and then started the Reiki path. And it just carried on to shamanism in 2004. And that's when my world really shifted into a deeper awareness, other than just an understanding that, yes, we're all very intuitive, we all have innate. But I also realized there's medicine and power and wisdom we can connect to intentionally, that's more than just the human story. And that's where shamanism came in. So I've spent a lot of time in Peru. I spent 5 weeks in Peru this year.
Wow.
While in South America, I was 3 weeks in Peru and 2 weeks in Ecuador. And I try to go down at least once a year. And if I don't go down there, then my teacher from Peru comes here. So I've been studying with him for 10 years. And yeah, I'm just really blessed with the experiences I've had, the people I've met, and continuing to step into the wonder every day. I think that's where we're all about, is learning magic and learning that we're in this incredible universe, that we're all so divinely supported. We just need to dial into that radio station. And that's what I'm doing right now, is explaining some of that radio station scenario. So
I love that. And, I tend to think that there's a lot of magic in the world.
yeah.
And do you know that right now we're not allowed to say that word magic on the internet without fear of it being taken down? But I'm not worried about it at all because life is magical. We just
Hmm.
have to know the tools in
Hmm.
order to access the magic. And I think this is where you're coming in
Yeah.
because your book, Shifting Time or Timelines, is a really an extension of the law of attraction. It's telling us something that may be the reason why some of us are not able to manifest it at all, or even it takes forever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's start there. What the heck is shifting timelines? Or what is timelines? This is just so fascinating to me.
So we're living in a very complex universe, and the movie The Matrix kind of introduced a concept. Now, the movie is very Hollywood, but
Yeah.
it did introduce a concept that got us thinking about what kind of programs are we actually living in. And I mean, again, let's take Hollywood out of the question and just look at the fact that perhaps there is more to our energetic world than we recognize, and that there are programs running that we create and then are created by other beings, other human beings, and other historic times that we might have connection to. And in my book, I talk about the human communication field, and that was something that came through when I was writing the book that I've never seen before. But it made total sense to me that we're living within this program, per se, of experiences in this reality. And those programs in some format we have relationship with. Some of us have strong relationship with the human collective, and others of us have strong relationship with the astral dimension. Some of us, like me, have a strong connection to the earth matrix because I do the shamanic work.
Right.
So it's kind of like we're interrelating with this universal communication field, and we're drawing into our life these experiences. And when these experiences get solidified with mental thought and emotion, which we humans are all about emotion, and that's why we're here, is to experience emotion and process it. But when we get into a trajectory, or we create this radio station where it's the same theme, the same energy, the same information, we're living in a timeline. So that's the way it's hard to take the quantum understanding of timelines and relate it into this 3D world. I use the analogy in the book, where the ant and the anthill living in New York, and we don't understand how all these things work because we're in the ant and the anthill, and we don't see past our park. But in truth, we are interrelating and communicating with other fields all the time, day in and day out, 24/7. And those communication fields are affecting our reality. And we get into these timelines where it's the same theme, the same ideal, the same story. Think of story, really, because I think story is a fantastic analogy where we're experiencing, perhaps, let's think on the positive side, but I do want people to think about it the other side too. But say things are going really well for you, your job is really, you're in this magic, as I say, in this time of wonder, and things are going well, really well, and everything is just ticking along. Well, that's a timeline, and you're living in that timeline. But then something can happen and it clicks you out of that timeline, and then suddenly you're living in this other timeline where things aren't clicking and syncing like they were, and you go, what happened? And that's where this book, for me personally, again, I am no quantum physicist, and I say that because people will ask me technically how this works, and I go, I can't explain it to you because I'm the ant. But I do know that what I understand is that we're living in specific timelines. Some of our timelines are changeable depending on the environment, depending on the experiences. Sometimes we jump timelines. Sometimes we don't realize we're jumping timelines because they're so minor. And then there's other times we jump these themes into big changes, and then suddenly we're living something else. And I have some great examples that I can share with you. But does that sort of answer your question? I want to make sure I kind of relay understanding here.
So does the timeline reflect past, like ancestors, past lives?
Absolutely.
So it's like we're all merging into a one timeline. But so are we, I take it we're not stuck into one timeline.
No, it depends on your human communication field and where you're operating from. What programs are you running? Are you running Excel? Are you running Word? Are you running, a program that's brand new to your computer system and you're just getting your feet wet? If you're a strong astral dimension communicator, then you're probably living some of your ancestors' lives. Truthfully, we all have our ancestors in our bones, and we are working their history that was unfinished for them. I mean, as a shaman practitioner that worked with clients for 13 years, when I saw somebody who was really, really stuck, I always went to the ancestors because, I wanted to see what was running from that influence. But there's other influences. I mean, now I recognize, and I describe it in the book, of parallel timelines are also running where maybe our whole spirit, our whole soul is living a complete and different life. Our relationship, our common thread is our soul, but the relationship between lives can sometimes intermix depending on what we're learning. And I talk about that in the book, that, the soul is an efficient learner. The soul wants to know thyself in all its different and wonderful outfits. And sometimes we live, dual lives. And sometimes those relationships, as weird as this sounds, start to mix. when the themes become similar. And I talk about the timelines merging when we have doorways that have resonance. So I like to explain to people that, we're running a channel. The channel is this construct that we're living in, and there's interaction between the different communication fields. But then, something big might happen, and what I say is we cross channel. Just like a river. Think about the river. It's meandering through its reality and experiences, and then it's seeking its back to source. That's where it's going. And we're very much a river, but we're interrelating with some very complex systems. And we don't need to care about the systems, because to me, they're distractive. What we need to recognize as co-creators in the understanding of law of attraction is that when we can't co-create that which we seek, then something's in our way. And when that something is in our way, it has likely got a relationship with the other programs that are running unconsciously to us that we don't know about.
Interesting. So that means that you can run two timelines or at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm Jules at home, totally different from the Jules on the radio. Would that be considered?
Yes.
So a person who is at work is a totally different person from what they're at home. So when you manifest, it depends on, or where you want to manifest, it really depends on which line you're on, right?
Yeah. And if you think about Jules on the radio, you're in a certain vibration and a certain intention and a certain conscious focus, correct? Like,
Right.
what you're doing in that place. And so your timeline is going to interrelate to, example, other people who are interviewing other people in the world right now on that broadcast. So think about the radio stations again. So right now, you and I are talking on a timeline where we're interrelating through communication. So all the other people who are doing that in the world, we could relate to energetically right now.
Right.
Right? So that's why when you see these really brilliant ideas, they start popping up all over the world. It's because those people are interrelating on that timeline simultaneously and getting the similar ideas.
Interesting.
I know, this is profound. This was life altering for me to understand how it works. So you're right now tapping in energetically to all the brilliant people, you included, that are doing this work in the world. So you can see how certain things sync up for you during this time. And then you go home and you interrelate with family and the relationships that way. And it's a different experience because there's other people involved and you're interrelating with different programs, human communication field, your ancestors, the home energy, that designs another timeline. So you just change radio stations from country to easy listening. It's that kind of analogy. So that's the literal day of timelines. That's the way that it works, is that we're jumping timelines all the time. Based on what we're focusing on. But we have predominant timelines, predominant programs, predominant doorways, per se, that cause us to live certain experiences. So a good example that came to me when I was thinking about this interview was a lot of people are seeking sustainability in their lives. Like they're suffering through lack, and they can't get into that sustainable creation of income or financial support, or they're not manifesting like they should. My question would be then, where are they sourcing through their communication field that story? And will can absolutely, when you think about things and start to focus on what you want versus what you don't want, which is the law of attraction methodology, you can help fuel your timeline. But if you're not manifesting the abundance you need, then there's something running in your timeline that's blocking it. And so that's why, you know, I have some ideas in the back of the book about how to shift up timelines literally from point A to point B. It takes action. It's not just thought and will. And I think that's the part that I came into this, you know, next version of what I'm offering in the world, understanding that it takes action to actually jump timelines.
It takes actions as far as exercises, as far as thinking a different way, monitoring your thoughts. What kind of action are you talking about?
So I'm going to use me as an example. I decided in January, after being in Peru, I want to lose weight. I want to get fit. I need to take my health seriously. I'm in my 50s now. I want to start to really pay attention. It's time. And so as soon as I came home, I started putting processes in place. I started implementing certain eating regime. And then I joined a gym. I realized that this wasn't going to happen unless I took steps. And we do this all the time. As co-creators, we're taking steps to that which we're looking for. But what happens is it takes yourself to move from the timeline of me being, you know, sedate in my life and not working out and not doing that, to stepping into a timeline where I am working out.
Right.
You know, you know, I have to be in it for it to start to work. I can't will myself there. I can't think myself there, even though I know that some of the teachings out there, but I recognize the matrix that we're living is so complex. It's like we've got to literally stick our feet in that pond and draw forth that energy and that understanding, and the consciousness and collective that we live within starts to fuel that timeline.
Okay, so you're saying that you have to take the steps to achieve what you want to achieve. It's not magical thinking.
It can't be, because of the other constructs that we're interrelating with. You know, if you want a timeline to change, you've got to actually create action within that timeline so that you're bridging from where you were to where you want to be, right? And the bridge is action. It's not just thinking yourself through it. And, you know, and I think the law of attraction, that the teachings that we've learned to date have been fantastic, because it does say to us, you know, you're co-creators.
Right.
But you got to interrelate with the communication field that I list in my book from an active state, because the universe is, I was sitting with the medicine people in Peru, and they said, you think 10,000 thoughts in an hour. How does the universe know which thought is that which you are seeking?
Good point.
And it makes sense, right? Like, we do think a lot. I mean, I can be focusing on writing something, and the next thing I know, my grocery list pops into my head. It's so interesting that I interrelate with all these other fields, but they distract me. So when you take action, it's almost like it's putting creation in motion already. And I want to, I really want to show you how timelines work from one example that I don't share in the book, but I share on all my teachings online that was really important. I woke up one morning, I was meeting a loved one who was moving out of the city, and she called me, woke me up with her phone call and told me she had a slight car accident and she was going to be late, but she still wanted to see me because she was moving. She gave me all the details of the car accident, and it was emotional and it was upsetting, and I literally had to jump out of bed and do some things. I didn't have time to reset. Okay, I did not have time. So then I go and I meet her, and we talk for a few minutes about the accident, and then we get into the other world. So we didn't spend a lot of time there, but point is, we spent some time there. And then I get in the car and I'm driving to go to a store, and an accident happens just in front of me. Like, I'm talking seconds before, well, they were out of their vehicle already, looking at the debris everywhere. And I felt bad, said a prayer for them as I was driving by, because, you know, not a good day for them. And I go and do my shopping, and I get back on, and it's on a causeway in our cities, you know, gets our limitation on traffic just like other cities. It was backed up for miles, like miles and miles and miles, because of the debris they had to clean up. So I'm driving back the other way and driving past all this really funky energy of unhappiness and stress and people needing to get there. And I could feel it. I could feel the energy of it. And I was, clear, 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 release, release, release. But again, not taking any action, just thinking myself through it. And I stop and I'm ready to turn off of the main road. And I'm on a turn signal, stopped, and I get hit from behind.
Oh my God.
And I have never had an accident, Jules, never. But there's the timeline where I jumped. It started with me waking up when I was most permeable with the energy, and it just consistently built from there. And literally, it just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And I never stopped the momentum of that timeline. I never was able to clear myself of it. And it took literal form and creation in my life.
Just as a side note, was that retrograde, Mercury retrograde?
No, this was last year. And
it wasn't Mercury retrograde. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if it was?
Well, and again, but I think it's I think it's a really good example of how we can jump into other timelines that aren't even ours. That's what I want to say to people. These are not our timelines, but they affect us. We're permeable. I have a doorway to this person who I had this, like this coffee with, because she's a loved one. And so I jumped into her timeline and basically started to relate it into mine. And then the co-creations start to take place.
Interesting.
So we need to understand that our timelines are interrelating with others, and we're jumping out of our timelines into other people's timelines and experiencing these experiences that may not even be ours. There's a common thread for sure. We can't blame, shame, or blame anybody else. There is a common thread, and mine was love for this person. But man, like, that's just a fine example of how timelines can, timeline management is so imperative now. And I know maybe your listeners have noticed the speeding up of co-creation. It's getting faster and faster, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we gotta figure out where we're at. What is our operating system doing? Are we interrelating with other operating systems that perhaps are not serving us right now and blocking our co-creations that we seek, and we're co-creating with things we absolutely don't want to involve ourselves with. So the law of attraction tells us we're magnetic, and we are magnetic. We are absolutely, no question, broadcasting and receiving constantly, but we need to figure out what our magnetics are based in, and it's not just thought.
Okay, so that event happened for you
Mm-hmm.
to show you exactly what was going on in a timeline. There was a reason for that to happen so that you could gather that information. But as a person who is in that, is there a way to stop and jump out of that into another timeline, or do we have to follow through?
No, in my world, what I should have done is stopped the momentum. When I got to the store, I heard about an accident with a loved one. Then I saw an accident. Right then and there, I should have paid attention. Something's up. I'm in the wrong magnetic field. I don't want to be here. I should have gone at the store and sat on the land and just reset, prayed, meditated for 5 minutes, cuddle cords, do my processes that I do, that I share some of that in the book. Water release work that I share, where you blow the energy of your emotions and thoughts into water and then pour it on the land. That is a big reset, because it actually helps you reset back to the earth matrix.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful. That
It's
really makes
easy.
it. So you blow it all into like a glass of water.
Yeah.
Your emotions, you just get rid of it and then pour it into the ground, which
Yeah.
makes sense too, because it's energy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's one of the most powerful processes I use in my own life, and if you don't have water and you have a glass of juice in your car, then use that. That's better than nothing. But I should have stopped the momentum. But it's a great story. So perhaps it was divinely guided, and my car wasn't, damaged too badly. I had some physical symptoms for a couple of days, because like I said, I've never been in an accident, but which caught my attention. It's like, pay attention. Like, this is important stuff. So, I mean, I have to experience it before I understand how important it is.
And to teach others about
Yeah.
it. So, like I said, you had to go through that experience so that
Mhm.
you could learn from it. It's like they say, the teacher has experienced everything. That's how
Mhm.
they teach. So you did
Yeah.
that, and I can applaud you for that. But I like to know the remedies. So the water is a great one, and we do that if we can feel our emotions going
Oh,
wrong,
yeah.
wrong, like icky
Yeah.
feelings. So you just
Yeah.
take and blow all of those emotions into the glass.
Yeah. And literally, I say to people, dig deep. Get into the thoughts too, because, I'm sure you've walked into a room perfectly feeling great. At least I have. And then I walk out feeling mucky,
Yeah.
and because I'm empathic and
Yeah.
I've imprinted with all of these energies. I struggle to go to funerals for that reason, because I know, as a medium, in practicing medium for many years, death is an okay thing, but I struggle to be the human amongst humans experiencing all those emotions. And that's an example of where I would literally go and grab a glass of water and sit outside and blow and blow and blow until I'm reset before I'd even go back in to talk to anybody, because I'm a sponge. And it's literally, for me, a lifesaver. I use it if I wake up in the morning and I've had a bad dream. I use it anywhere that I'm out and about, because it's non-obvious. Nobody knows what the heck I'm doing. And it works for me immediately, because, again, when you look at the communication field in the book, I want to track out of, or unhook from, or turn the radio station dials off of those other communication fields. And I always want to turn back into the Earth matrix, because the Earth matrix doesn't have the stories that humans do. The
Mm-hmm.
Earth communication field is about fulfillment. It's about fertility. It's about life coming back online. That's what this planet is, a terraforming planet. It's to give life. So if we're constantly interacting with all these other funky communication fields and we want to stop it, the best way to do that is to dial into an element, which water is. And literally processing through that water, giving it back to the land. You're shifting your timelines, if that makes any sense.
So could you also just go and sit on the ground, take off your shoes, and just ground? Is that another way? Because you're sending all of that emotion down into Gaia,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece that I'm really glad you brought it up, because that's easy to do too. We've got to reset back to the natural state,
Mm.
and sitting on the land has strong vibrations, as long as the land is healthy. I mean, some of our land has gotten sick too, because it's absorbed all these energies. So pick a nice piece of grass with a blooming tree, and that the life force is there, and you sit there and you just literally, like you said, breathe in the energy of the land and breathe out the system, or the energy, or the connections that are not feeling good to you. And yeah, you're reset. And the thing that I like about little processes like this, that you can take 2 minutes to do, is you're literally managing where you're operating in, you know and I think it's important for us, because we are becoming, and I don't want to put this emotion in a negative way, I want to put it in a really positive way. We're becoming really sensitive to the rest of the world.
Mm.
And the rest of the world has its constructs of, some are really positive and some are really negative. So, like, what radio station do you want to be listening to? It's simple, but we got to take action to reset, because the mind is only one part of the equation.
Right, right. Well, of course, everybody wants to listen to Law of Attraction Radio Network.
Well, and think about the seeds you're doing, because you're planting consciousness with everything that you do. So guess what you're fueling on that timeline? You're saying that people are co-creators. You're opening the doorways to all the people. So when somebody's listening to your radio show, they're running that timeline. You know, I have spent a lot of time in, I don't know if I'm allowed to say a famous name,
Sure.
but she's an author, Hay House. I've spent a lot of time in her seminars, Abraham, Esther Hicks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for years I've listened to her, but I've gone over the last 2 years to 2, 3 years to be in the energy of it intentionally to fuel my timelines. And I've dragged my husband because I wanted to fuel him too, right? So the point of it is, and it's changed our life because we've been operating in that timeline, just like you're doing. You're teaching people that they have say over their lives. And that's huge, because when everybody taps into that story, that awareness through timelines that are collective, then it raises everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, you know, the big M word that we're not allowed to say starts to really flow, because, you know, the wonder of the universe is all about fueling those higher, you know, where there's a flow, where there's an opening, availability for things to flow, it flows with ease. It's when we're restricted and tied down that things block and slow down, right?
So we can pick the time frames that we want to be in.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying? So
Absolutely.
you were going to see Esther Hicks, and I've always said that the one thing, because she says the same thing over and over again, but she has the energy that is so captivating. So when people are going to her, they keep on going back because they need that energetic fix. Is that correct?
I sense that myself. For me, I wanted to, you know, I wanted to go see I wanted to go see how her matrix was working. I wanted to go understand how the human collective was interrelating within that setting. She always picks, you know, I've been lucky, I've been going on the cruises, and she always picks really nice venues and places because the vibration, the timeline is high.
Right.
She's also putting everyone in a timeline where everybody's receiving. You know, like on the cruises, you could be staying in the cheapest room because that's what you can afford, but you're living like a king or a queen.
Yeah.
She's putting you in that timeline. So you see, she's already doing this. She may not speak to it this way, but you know, it's so funny because I was at an Abraham Hicks event in Mexico, and I had a woman come up to me and say to me, "You're going to write a book that takes it to the next level for law of attraction." Excuse me. And I said, "Don't know what you're talking about, but hey, I'm listening, and thank you for planting the seed." And then the book comes literally a year later. And it's exactly that. It's like, well, once we understand, okay, yes, we're magnetic. Yes, we have say. Yes, we're co-creators. Okay, now how do we co-create in the cleanest, most efficient way? And that's what this book is about, is starting to recognize that you're so complex, that you're sending and receiving with so many energies around you. Some of them are easy to recognize and some of them are unconscious and you're not aware of. And so, you know, the trick, and this sounds really bizarre, but if I was struggling with money right now, I would go walk around at Fifth Avenue, uh, you know, stores and wear my high-end clothes and step into that for just feeling it, feeling like Esther does with everybody else. She puts them in the co-creative timeline that is the highest vibration, that feels the best. You got to start doing those kind of things in your life. I can't get in shape and thinner and healthier if I don't stick myself in those timelines. Literally, you know? So that's just an example. It can work the other way, where you're drawing into other timelines that are not positive, like I did with the accident. But, you know, I'm my biggest teacher right now is resistance. So when I'm feeling resistance in my life, I'm not in the optimal timeline. When I feel ease and I feel this flow, that's the words that come to me, then I'm in the timeline that I'm supposed to be in. So that is my indicator. that is my indicator. When I'm not in fluidity, I'm out of the timeline that's most appropriate for me.
Okay. So then how do you create another timeline? Saying, I mean, just last week, I was planning a trip. I couldn't get the flights. And it was like, oh my gosh, frustration through a whole day trying to get flights. And how do you correct that? I mean, finally, I just gave up and just said, I'm not going. I'm going to trust that if it was supposed to happen,
Yes.
then I would be on that plane. It'd be easy for me to be frustrated throughout the day. Just said, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be going.
So you use that awareness as an indicator of being in the right timeline or not. And I think that's brilliant. That's the best medicine, the best wisdom. If there's something unfolding that you really, so you need to go to this place that you want to book, then I would personally set up an altar. And this is not a religious altar. This is an altar to communicate with the universe. I always say when I do the things that I do, it's to open a phone line to the universe. And so I literally set up an altar with a candle. I put pictures. I even brought some out here to show you. I put pictures. So say I want to go to Hawaii. I put a picture of Hawaii on the altar. Trust. You talked about trust. Isn't that so awesome? I put, tools that represent something to me. And then I light a candle every day on that altar, asking the universe to make space for this in the most appropriate, efficient way, because it's something I desire. And send me signs. Send me signs. Again, I'm communicating with the universe. I got the phone to my ear and I'm saying, okay, guys, this is what I need. Show up. Tell me what it is I need. And these little hints then start to come, like you knew right away, okay, this is too much resistance. I'm not meant to go. But if you really want to go there, then I would go the next step, take action, open up that altar, say, here's what I'm doing. This is what I need. Give me signs. And then something else is going to show up for you to say, clearly, yes, you need to go, and this is where you're going, and these are the details, or no, this is not the time for you to go. Because your soul has a better wisdom of why that would be not the case right now, right? So I trust, that's why I picked the word trust, that when I open that phone line, I'm going to be answered. And I think it's the next step in that action process. And like I said, this is not a religious thing. This is setting something in motion and saying, okay, universe, I need more help. And I say to people, if you're designing a home, it's in my book, if you're designing a home, you're renovating, and you want the clearest, most efficient timeline to that experience, then go and buy some materials that you like, that you would love to see on things. Literally, just like the old vision boards, but put it in an altar, tend to it every day. If it gets old, the universe stops hearing you.
Interesting. So you light the candle and you let it stay there for the day?
Yep. Yeah. And what I'm doing is I'm fueling with light more information, more co-creational support. My tools on the altar represent the symbols of that which I'm seeking. It's personal, it's artistic, it's creative, it's accessing those higher dimensional energies of co-creation. And as I'm lighting the candle, I usually say a prayer, an intentional statement that says, I'm seeking this, and I'm asking the universe to assist me in understanding how that next step may take place. So I'm bridging timelines, really. I'm going from this is where I'm at and this is where I want to go. Bridge me.
Yeah, interesting. So fascinating. So that's a good little step, but it's also an action step. Because if you're just thinking it in your mind, it's going to get cluttered with all the everyday stuff. But if you actually do that with an altar, you are focusing in on the intent. And that is absolutely brilliant. Scientifically brilliant.
Well, it's a quantum field you're interrelating with. So the day that you guys contacted me, I had done an altar. So for my book. So
Wow.
I had already done one, and you contacted me within 2 hours of. So there's an example of it in action. And all I was saying to Spirit was bring the most efficient and most clear direction on how to get this book out. And boom, you guys contacted me. So
Hey,
I'm
we
an,
listen to the universe here. Tell us where to go.
well, isn't that cool though? Isn't that a great story on how this actually works? It works. I'm not kidding, because you guys are a hub for this information to get out there. It really makes sense energetically and timeline wise to work with you. So, if this isn't fluff,
No.
even though I know sometimes metaphysics can be fluffy,
Yeah.
but I mean, I guess I'm in the world of shamanism where we don't, well, when we put our ceremonies in motion, things change immediately. It's immediate. So you got to always make sure you're doing it from the most appropriate and high visioned direction. But for me, this book helped me understand why certain things had happened with clients, why they were struggling with certain things they wanted to co-create, because I realized, well, they've got issues with a parallel timeline that needs healing. And so you heal that through your own actions, like doing altars, working with another healer, sitting on the land and releasing the story and closing that doorway, and then opening in the doorway you seek through your own actions of like working with an altar, or like I said, there's statements we can make every day. And then, I use tools. I'm a tool girl. So I like crystals, I like stones. So if I'm going into a place where I'm going to be a bit challenged energetically, like, a mall,
Yeah, with
I,
all those people there. And
yeah,
you're eating up all of their emotions. I know.
yeah, yeah. And I think all of us that are sensitive and understanding co-creation are probably very sensitive people. So I use stones, I use crystals, I carry them on me. Those are intentional tools that say, I'm in my timeline and nobody's touching my timeline. And it's awesome because it works. And I'm always dialing. So this is important for, it's just two other things I just want to say quickly. I'm always dialing into the earth to get that that energy flowing in my life. So I like the stones, I like the crystals, I like the water. I use fire, like candle work. So on my website, I have videos of how to release using fire. And it's easy, takes minutes, just like the water does. But sometimes we have to release physical energies, not just emotional, mental ones. And fire is great for release of physical. Um, so if I walk in the mall and I have a headache after, and there's no thought in my mind of what the headache's about, then I may use a candle to release the pain in my head, because it's energy I picked up that through a mini timeline exchange that's not mine, but I got to release it. So I use fire to pull it out and release it to the fire. The other thing is, and this is probably the most important part of my message to the world right now, and I'm grateful to you for helping me get it out there. We have big timelines collectively that we have lived in on this planet, and we've had our personal timelines, which is what we've been talking about this whole time, but we also have big collective timelines, like the times of Egypt when we were in golden years, the times of the Maya, the times of Lemuria and Atlantis when we were in those golden years. Prior to 2012, we were locked into a matrix, a grid that didn't allow us to access those. But as we moved through the universe into new areas, that grid started to dissolve. And so now those bigger golden timelines are starting to open up to us. And that's why we're seeing some really neat things starting to unfold. When you think of how long you've done the law of attraction, right? You've been working in this field and sharing this great information. Now more will start to open up to you in what you're doing, because you're starting to access those other timelines that perhaps you were involved with, were very golden.
Interesting.
So we can
But
ask
let's go back to what's the definition of golden?
when we are strong co-creators, when the universe is providing everything we need, when there's less ego and more heart.
Okay,
When,
so like if you were talking about Atlantis, it was during that time period when everyone was flourishing. They were creating, they knew their own power, they knew they were powerful beings,
yeah,
and it not the time that it went down in the water. So that was a totally different timeline. So
it
that's what
was,
you're talking
yes. Yeah, a fulfilled Atlantis is a timeline. Falling Atlantis is another timeline.
about. Okay.
And these are big collective chunks of time. These have a lot of information in them. And so they, in some way, most of us have relationship with a golden timeline. We do. We've either been connected to Atlantis or the Maya or Lemuria or Egypt, where they were powerful star people coming in and out. All of these experiences, but we've all got some connection likely to a time when everything was flourishing. And so, like I say to people, if you could get out of all these scarce and ego-driven timelines that you're living in, work some of your M word, the magic in your life, and open the doorways, then you can start to access wisdom and more energy to fuel that which you are looking to fuel in your life. And that's why timeline management is important. So like I said to you today, I put on a scarf I bought from Egypt to do this interview, because I've been to Egypt, I've done sacred work over there. And so I want to tie into that really wise time. And so I intentionally do things like that.
That's so interesting because December 2012, we had a law of attraction cruise to Mayan, to Tulum, I should say.
Yeah,
And so we had a group of people, and we discovered as we were standing in a circle in this Tulum village
yeah.
that we had all been connected in a previous life, and we made a contract to come back in December of 2012, and we all became family. We were just, oh my gosh, this is huge. And so my timeline, I'm connected to the Mayan.
Exactly.
That is, it's brilliant, and it's so, oh my gosh, overwhelming and beautiful when something like that happens. And it's an experience I will never, ever, ever, ever forget in my life or my future lives.
So your timeline is still running in the Mayan cosmovision. It's still you. You're still existing in it. It may be a parallel timeline. It may be a past timeline. It may be both. I mean, the key is we don't know, right?
Right.
But the cool part is when you need something magical or forceful in your life to shift something, that would be the timeline I interrelate with. So I would do something like listen to Mayan prayers. I would, I would set up something with an altar. I may get the pictures out from that trip and reconnect back in and say, okay, Spirit, I just connected back into that timeline. Now I need to get more information from that.
Oh, that's
See,
brilliant.
that's a doorway you already have. Now open it when you need it.
Oh my gosh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, it's powerful. Yeah.
Now you are connecting the dots for me. This is really, really informative, and I'm resonating exactly to everything that you're saying here. So it is important. So we can change the timeline back into being the productive place where we want to be. But we still have to experience the other timelines or control the other timelines.
Well, my sense of it is control is an interesting word, but my feeling is if you're suffering through something, it's because something needs to be tended to. It's something in the human communication field. Either you have a doorway because of a family member that has the same story, You have to bring healing to that area of your life that isn't working, where there's most resistance. And so when I get something showing up where it's resistant, I'll do the water release work, I'll do the fire release work, I'll go sit on the land and do meditation, and I'll get more information. And sometimes I'm guided to things I have to do to heal it. Sometimes it's just done. And I can't tell you, everybody's a snowflake.
Yeah.
But the cool part is you have the capacity as a powerful co-creator in your life, who's divine being walking on this planet right now, to heal that which needs healing. And you have to listen to your divine guidance to figure out what that might be. And if somebody's passed on, it may be that you have to do an altar honoring them. I never can say. Every client I ever worked with, the equation for healing was different with every one of them. And so it's like, that's why I say we're snowflakes. But when when something is drawing us in, something is pulling us in, we need to pay attention to what the something is beyond the story. So I knew that I had jumped timelines. In my book, I talk about a big timeline jump. That's what got me writing this book, was a major timeline jump while I was in a hotel in Hawaii. I was actually at a Hay House conference, and I went to bed one night perfectly fine, and I woke up in the middle of the night to some violence happening in the hotel, and it was very scary. And I prayed and prayed, and I couldn't even get to my tools because I knew the people downstairs would hear me, and there was nobody on staff because it's a lock hotel. And anyways, I explained the whole story, and I got up the next morning expecting to leave the hotel with broken glass everywhere. And long story short, I woke up and nothing had happened. And I was like, that's what got me starting to look into this. And I got back, I phoned my teacher in Peru and said, hey, what happened? He said, you jumped timelines. He said, figure out what the doorway is. I'm like, okay. And I was stressed out. I was traveling, and the stress of the travel and all that was going on. I don't want to say too much, but I literally jumped into another timeline that was relatable to the place, not to me. So that had happened in the place, or was going to happen. And
Wow.
I jumped into it, woke up to that experience, and then literally it shook me to the core, because here I'm telling my friend who was staying next to me, did you hear that? What happened? All that horrible stuff. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was awake, like I am right now speaking to you. So I know these big timeline jumps can happen, but usually in the most crisis of time in your life, or the most challenging time. I think the beauty of our timelines can be managed every day, through the things we've talked about. And then I think we can also really start to co-create using our actions and our co-creational powers to then dial into the timelines that we really want to bring into the world for ourselves and for our family. And the book, it really goes into that. So I feel like we're onto something here.
Yeah.
And I really feel that the work you're doing in the world helps people keep remembering who they are and what they're capable of. And that's what we need. We need that consciousness out globally as far as it'll go.
Right. And the work that you're doing as well. Oh my goodness. This is really great information. And we are almost out of
Yeah,
time,
we are.
but I want to have you tell people, well, one, you do coaching. Is that correct?
I coach for people from a distance. Since you're in the States, yeah, I do coaching on Skype and also by phone. I call it mentoring, really, because to
Ah,
me, everybody is different. And I often, I mentored people for years, but now I'm getting into the timeline arena, and it's really super cool because I can see where people are stuck, and then I can walk them through a release that helps them unstick. So yeah, so
and
that's
that's where it really helps with you being a medium, because you're collecting information on them psychically so
yeah.
that you can speed up the process. I think that's really neat. So how do they get in touch with you to talk to you directly through Skype, or if they're in your hometown, you're in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So I'm in the west side of Canada. So yeah. They can email me. I think the best thing, if they go to my website, timelessness.ca, it has everything there. It has my YouTube videos explaining how to do your own healing work. It has the book information, and it has how to contact me. Plus, I do a newsletter once or twice a month, and it's always divine information about how to help yourself.
Oh my
So,
gosh, you got to sign up for that newsletter. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, this is
yeah,
powerful. I mean,
yeah.
just to get this info directed, I mean, just sent to you, this is powerful stuff. So I'm going to encourage everybody to go. And the name of the book is, once again,
Shifting timelines.
and they can get it on Amazon or
Yes.
your website.
So I have an actual Balboa book website called shiftingtimelines.com. They can order it there, or absolutely it can be ordered via Amazon, and it's both available in paper copy and electronically. It's not a big book. I was told to really keep it short and simple. It's like 80 some pages, but it's not getting into details. It's just bare bones as to how we're working, so people can play with it. I really want people to play and understand the timelines rather than get stuck in the muck
Yeah.
of detail.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I love this. Oh,
Um,
Cindy, this is terrific. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
oh,
And
Jules,
oh my gosh, big awakenings for me. And I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on. I want to have you back on, definitely. Are you going to be writing another book?
I have a feeling the next book is about action more. Like, I mean, there is a part 2 in the book about action, but now I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to sit with this for a couple of months and just see where I'm guided. And every time I sit with people like you guys help me in that next bridging of timelines of opening up what's next, right? So I'm gathering at this moment what that should be.
Oh, terrific. And I know it's going to be fabulous. So thank you so much for bringing this information to us. I know that the audience is excited about it as I am. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do in the world. It's big work, so we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com, and have a great week.